Happy Friday, everybody. Nice to see you. Capes and Cows, big thing. We are back in studio, all of us. I am excited for it. And we got a good show here for us today, everybody. A lot of stuff. There's a lot of rumors. Not only did we cover the story in the big thing yesterday that there's inside rumblings that the Flash might be as hyped up as The Dark Knight. Say what? And inside of that, because the movie might be so good, the big report, as you saw in this title, is that there are major rumors that Ezra Miller might continue on as the Flash. Is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? It's a discussion that we're going to have on the show today for sure. Dave Bautista, I thought he was friends with The Rock. Well, he took another shot at him inside of one of these comments, and it's very interesting. What's going on? He just wants to be more of a dramatic actor. He said saying goodbye to Drax, but on the way out, he slapped the Rock in the head with his ball bag. And then there's some Secret Wars rumors. We'll put the time codes in case you don't want to hear about rumors. That's fine, but I'm curious about it more so because I want to know more about Secret Wars. I don't know enough about it, and I want to hear some stuff from both Winston and Coy. Speaking of DC, man, that wasn't DC, that was Marvel. But speaking of DC from before, you've got James Gunn, who's also talking about Wonder Woman. There's some stuff there. What's going to happen with Gal Gadot? If Ezra Miller's sticking around, is Gal Gadot sticking around? So much. Speaking of DC again, speaking of The Rock again, I told you guys, there's a report out there that said that The Rock did try to take over DC. Stop that. And it turns out that that's a major rumor, and it could be true. So we'll talk about that as well. What happened, what went wrong. That and more on today's show. So if you haven't already done this, I'm really hoping that you've Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the numbers are growing on those platforms, and we need you guys to help. So if you're a brand new viewer and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? I only watch on YouTube. Well, you help out the show tremendously when you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, and download the episode. Even if you watch it on the YouTubes, it helps. Subscribe to the channel, man. 70,000. We're getting close. We're at 63 right now. Just hit that. So we hope that you can join us in the. We're very close to a live tour. We're very close. I'm putting things into motion. And then last but not least, you like Capes and Cows? You like the big thing? Get yourself a shirt. Get yourself a Top Gun guy.
The Top Gun guy?
Yeah, the Top Gun guy. Get one of those shirts. That and more on today's show, guys. Thank you so much. Can't wait to get into it, Winston and Coy. You ready? I'm ready. Everybody's ready. Sounds wonderful. Let's do it. Welcome back, one and all, to the show that we do here.
What praise?
That's good, right? It's the show we do here. It's the show we do here.
We do it over here.
Was I lying? Coy, Winston.
Hi.
Hello, guys.
Happy New Year.
How was your breaks?
Yeah.
I've been dying, man. I just sat at home. I learned to edit though. I only got some editing skills.
You guys both been working on your channels.
hustling,
I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Both check out both Coy and Winston got the YouTube channels, the single channels. You should go and check those out.
Your walkout reactions are great, man. The theater stuff.
I appreciate it. It's been fun doing that. I need to go ahead and figure out how to get universal access. They got a lot of good stuff coming out this year.
This year's so stacked. I did my 2023 most anticipated, and I tried to narrow it down to 23. I succeeded, but I had 50 movies I'm excited for this year. Comfortably.
I had a problem trying to pick my top 5 most anticipated.
You did 5? Oh, that's tough.
That's ambitious.
It's so hard.
I did 10.
10, yeah.
I did 10, and I forgot my number 2 most anticipated movie.
While I was editing, I forgot my number 2, and I put it in. Dune?
I completely forgot about Dune.
Yeah, mine's Guy Ritchie and Jake Gyllenhaal doing a movie together.
Oh, okay. Well, Dune number 1 was my number 1 movie of that year. I know. Dune was my number 1 movie of that year. And I was for some reason I thought it was 2024. I don't know why.
I think it's because it felt forever ago, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But now it's around the corner.
And I put it at, I didn't even have it in there. And people were like, I thought you loved Dune. Where's Dune? And I'm like, and I would write back to everybody, I'm an idiot. That's why. I completely
Especially
forgot it.
post Elvis, which I didn't realize you loved Elvis as much as I did.
I liked it, yeah. I liked
it's in your
it a
top
lot.
10,
It's
right?
in my top 10. But I mean, the one, Blue Beetle.
Because Austin Butler's in Dune too.
Well, but you're talking about best of. But I was talking about anticipated.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying because of Elvis, I'm even more excited for Dune.
Oh, right.
I'm saying Dune was already up there, but then Butler.
But yeah, it was up there for me just because of how great the first one was, but but the only one that would drop down just a little bit, and I had a bias on top 10, my 10, and that was Blue Beetle, and I really want to see it. I think it's gonna be great. The test screenings have been going great for it. But I have a bias because I'm friendly with Sholo, but I am excited for that film. But that's the one that probably would just drop to an honorable mention, and then I push everything up. Yeah, because my top 3 would be right now. Number 3 would be Creed 3. Number 2 would be Dune, and number 1 is Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that for you. That makes sense. Spider-Verse,
that makes perfect sense.
Spider-Verse didn't make my cut. I know.
Wow.
It was honorable mention. It was tough. It was tough.
That's crazy.
It was number 10.
Yeah.
But now it's number 11.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
I know.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but if you heard the list, I think it would.
I'll go back and watch it, and then I'll call you and say that doesn't make sense.
Spider-Verse not being in the top 10 is crazy to me. It would be in yours.
It would 1,000%. It would probably be top. It was, if I remember, it was part of the top 5. I almost panicked because I forgot about it.
Yeah.
And then I remembered, and I was like, ooh, something got to go. I need to relook at the list. And
it's
see,
the only franchise film in my top 3.
Oh, say Guardians is in there for me.
Yeah.
My top 3.
Guardians. Oh, top 3.
Yeah. Oh. Mine's Spider-Verse, The Killer, and then Oppenheimer.
Okay, Oppenheimer was in there for me. The one that's in there for me that was in my top 10 that I don't even know if it's coming out, but it was supposed to come out last year, is Scorsese's new movie, Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's in my top 10.
That's what they say. It's coming in May. So it was like number 5 for me. But I had Guardians in my top 10. I had Ant-Man in my top 10. I had The Flash in top 10.
Flash was outside it.
Flash is in my 20.
Yeah.
It's 20, sure. I guess just from the standpoint of like we don't know anything except like the drama and the test screenings are great.
Yeah, so we can. I mean, I guess so.
Let's talk about Flash.
Well, yeah, but let's to everybody. So if your brand, I know. Look, we've got, and I wanted to thank everybody because this show we started. Myself, Winston, and Coy started doing shows together last year in the beginning of last year, or 2021. Now at this point, and we just started kind of doing a rewatch series. We know we like doing shows together, and then we realized quickly that there were certain rewatches that we could do, and people would want to tune in. But obviously, if you didn't want to watch the movie, you're like, I like watching these guys talk about stuff, but that's not necessarily something I'm into. So we'd move that to Patreon, but we created Capes and Cowls. It was something that we had always talked about for a while. We created that. Last year we started doing it, and I will say that it is quickly becoming one of the more viewed episodes of The Big Thing weekly, and I thank you guys for that. But one of the things that we're going to implement to all of The Big Thing episodes is the format that we've been doing, because we're always going to have a loose conversation. I think that's what makes this channel. But we're adding a little bit of a structure to it is essentially what the three of us did on our best movies, comic book movies list when we did our episode last week. And we're going to take a list, and we did this on the Big Thing episode. We did that. We did this on Monday. We did this entire week, and we're going to continue to do it because it seems like you guys are digging it. We have a list of topics. We are going to show whoever the panelists are. In the case of today, it's myself, Winston, and Coy, and we're going to have a list, and we're going to go through those particular topics, and then we'll talk about them. Sometimes you won't get to all of the topics, but we're probably going to pick a lot of the ones that most people want to talk about, and we're going to start right now. And I'm going to start with this one. It's all about this Flash story, man, and it's kind of a twofer, because the first part of it is you get the test screenings, and we had already heard that this movie was really good. Everyone has been talking about how good this movie is. Now the new rumor is that the Flash, this is like they say, studio executives are talking about how hyped up they are. They're about as hyped up for this movie as The Dark Knight, and it's all this buzz. And sometimes I think that's here, just people adding a little extra hype. I can say, and someone added this, there's from even there's kind of a little bit more goofiness in this movie. So I don't know if it's going to compare to, like, say, The Dark Knight, but I've just heard so many good things about this movie overall so far. And this is another report. This report is that Ezra Miller may have a future as Barry Allen beyond The Flash, but Wonder Woman is looking like to be shelved. So there's a double here, and this is going to add to a long conversation here. As much as I think we're going to try to get to all this, the other stories, there's going to be I don't even think there's going to be a debate. I think we're all going to be on the same page here, but we'll find out. This is from Comic Book Movie. New details about DC Studios' plan for the DCU have been revealed, and while executives now seem open to the idea of Ezra Miller sticking around as the Flash, Wonder Woman might be on ice for now. DC Studios, which is spearheaded by James Gunn and Peter Safran, has big plans for the new DCU. Those remain a mystery to us for the time being, but Variety has shared a few interesting tidbits. All right, so this is coming from Variety. Apparently, Gunn's promised January reveal will consist of their 3-year interconnected vision for the cinematic universe, an indication Warner Brothers isn't looking to put the cart before the horse with this 8 to 10-year plan that has been formulated. The last time they unveiled a DC slate, it didn't go so well. After all, announcing too big of a slate of movies is likely to backfire given past experience, even with the new team in charge. Apparently, Gunn and Safran's plan is a broad but not blanket reset. In other words, it might not be the full-blown reboot we've been led to believe, even if Henry Cavill will no longer play Superman. However, the duo plans to explain these changes to the franchise, and it's hard to say, though, that The Flash might be the perfect opportunity to enact a soft reboot. Now, talking of the Scarlet Speedster, the trade reveals that given that Miller has stayed out of trouble since beginning mental health treatment in the summer, some executives are amenable to continuing with the actor as the world-saving speedster. Many of you will be shocked to hear that, but the movie is said to be testing incredibly well. Gunn and Safran are said to have Warner Brothers Discovery full support with the decision they're making, including Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3 story outline recently being vetoed. While that movie's status remains unclear, this report claims that the aforementioned 3-year plan won't include Wonder Woman at all. It's possible some DCEU actors and characters are being sidelined for this initial phase, though we can't help but think it'll be confusing to have the same Wonder Woman eventually standing alongside a different Superman, the old Flash, and Jason Momoa as Lobo rather than Aquaman. Until DC plans are revealed, we remain as confused about the DC's future as ever. Same. Same. And I think that's the first part of it. There's so much to discuss here.
Yeah.
So much. And let's start with the first part of it, and let's talk about the movie itself. So I talked about it yesterday on Big Thing, and that's as reports. We've heard already how good this movie is apparently, right? And now there's these reports that it's so good that they're throwing out the coveted the holy grail of the Dark Knight as comparison. Now I think that's horseshit. I don't think that that's necessarily the truth. I think there's always hype, but I do think that the movie, I've heard from somebody who has seen the movie who said it's incredible. Said it wasn't finished all the way when they saw it, but it was said incredible. Said Michael Keaton is out of control. Michael Keaton's going to be the one doing the press for this movie, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what you would do if you want to lead with this, because every other question is going to be about Ezra Miller's behavior. So, Corey, let's start with you on the movie. Gets pushed to June. Muschietti directing this thing, and there's a lot of hype before it. Are you buying the hype? Let's start there.
Okay, so when you have a comic movie, the thing you say is Dark Knight. It is Citizen Kane. It is the catchphrase. It is the thing you say. Whether or not it actually is as good as Dark Knight remains to be seen, because that's just such an easy hyperbole to throw out there. The executives in question, they're very vague about executives. This could be any number of people or like a person. I don't think James Gunn is willing to sacrifice what he's building to have this little bit of chaos involved in it, no matter how good the movie is. Because they need to end this universe completely if they're going to have any sort of...
You're going right there, right?
I'm going right there. There's no way you can do that. Like, no matter how good a movie is, if you want something clean, it doesn't make sense. So maybe if you want to keep Flash as an anomaly in the multiverse, maybe he can cameo, but you can't do this one Flash like they said at the end of this article. It's so bizarre. Also, like, I love that they're calling him Lobo already. Like,
but here, already done.
Yeah,
with
Winston. Here's my biggest issue with this. We're going to jump into this, right? Yeah. My biggest issue is let's say that these rumors or this report by Variety is true, and that they say, you know what, this guy that Ezra Miller has been going to therapy, has been taking care of themselves. So the movie's good enough. It needs to lead into some other things. So we're going to keep them on as Flash. Now, let's say that's true. That is, you are asking to throw a nuclear bomb into the fandom if you keep Ezra Miller and get rid of Gal Gadot and get rid of
Henry Cavill.
And the argument is, well, this movie could do really well. Aquaman made $1 billion.
And Man of Steel 2 could have made an insane amount of money.
But if everybody wanted him back, you got rid of Cavill. You got like keeping Ezra Miller and getting rid of everyone else that because Ezra Miller was the one who like, well, if they get rid of Ezra Miller, it's not that big of a deal, because it's like, I don't know. I thought Ezra Miller was really good in the Snyder Cut. That was the best performance that they've done so far.
Right.
But not enough to make me go, oh, they better keep Ezra Miller. It's like after seeing everything that Ezra Miller has done, it's like, cut your losses. To keep Ezra Miller over Cavill, over Gadot, and then just, well, yeah, but we're also going to bring him out as Lobo. You said it beforehand, and I want to get your thoughts on it. If you're going to reboot it, Stick your balls in the water and reboot it.
Reboot the whole thing. You have, especially knowing the one thing we kept talking about because this story was based off of Flashpoint. You have your hard reset.
Yeah.
You have it built in. This is your way out.
Yeah.
And to act like Ezra Miller is like the greatest actor of all time is laughable.
I don't think they're acting like that, though. I think it's just because the movie's probably that good.
Which is fine. And what makes you think that you can't go find another actor that can do that?
Yeah,
that's my problem is it looks like you're rewarding bad behavior. I'm glad that they're getting the help that they need.
But still.
But that's wild. That is absolutely wild, especially when you have... What was that? I thought that came out of coin.
The Jawas agreed. The Jawas agreed with you. They're totally agreeing with you.
I thought coin was like,
I was agreeing with you so enthusiastically. I Houdini'd. I was like, Houdini,
you literally have a situation where two of your stars of what is considered the Holy Trinity for DC have never had an issue.
Yeah.
Were excellent at their roles, and people wanted them back. And you told them, we're going completely different. Sorry, get out of here.
But we're keeping Ezra.
But we're going to keep Ezra, the one person who was in the news consistently.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say, I don't think this is true. I think these executives, I think this is to build hype for the film.
Variety scares me, though.
I would have been scared.
I
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see where you're going.
It's someone building hype for the film by saying things like Dark Knight, by saying, like, it's so good, we're going to keep Ezra. Like, it's to get the movie up. Because what was the first thing I said when the fifth charge came out on this show was, how are they going to market a film that's inevitably going to be canceled? Say it's not canceled. Say it's going to get a sequel. Say it's going to still come out and they're doing just fine.
Well, I think there's a lot of truth in that, but I think the other note is this. The other note is that what is everyone saying? Why am I going to support these movies with this DCU thing if the movies I'm going to see, they're just standalone movies and it doesn't really connect to anything too, and you're waiting to reboot it. They're like, no, but this one does count,
right? And make them the golden child before press, so they can do whatever press they're going to do,
right? Because if you're sitting in that meeting and going, this movie's really good, it's like really good, and we can get Keaton back, and we can do all this stuff with Keaton. Let's keep them on, or at least let's build the hype on it. Say that we're gonna keep.
It's
them.
all press, I think. And honestly, give Muschietti Superman now. Like, while the hype is high, have all of these announcements of how good the movie is, and then you put Muschietti on Superman.
But why not build the hype and not let something like this get out? If you want to say that this is Dark Knight good, if you want to, Michael Keaton is phenomenal. Focus on Michael Keaton. There is no reason. If that's the plan,
I'll be like right over here if you.
like if that's the plan, is to hype all of this up. You know, the one thing you could not let get out as like a rumor for your game plan to hype this is that Ezra might keep the role.
Ezra's apparently in every frame of the film. And apparently the film, like I have some friends that have seen it too. Yeah. They also agree that this is the best thing DC's done since like Dark Knight. But they didn't compare it to Dark Knight, but they say it's their favorite thing in 15 years. Now, but also it's not fair to put this in that pedestal.
God, has it been 15 years?
Yeah, I don't like to think about it either, dude. Yeah, no. It's 2023, bro. It is 2008 was Dark Knight. It has been 15 years. This year.
Stay on target.
This July. Back to it, man. Back to it. So anyway, thank you. Batman Begins was 2 years before Dark Knight. The reason Dark Knight can exist is off of the Batman Begins shoulders. That movie was the support system for Dark Knight.
3 years.
There's no version that Black Knight. I was looking at you and I was like, we're getting racist. But there's no reason the Dark Knight. There's no reason the Dark Knight can't do that moment. You see? I was waiting for you to call me out.
Subscribe to the channel? That's what you want people to know after that.
I was like, Winston's going to call me out, and then he did it, and then I did it, and now I'm screwed twice over. That's it. Kristian's gone. I've been canceled. First show in the year.
So we've been talking about, we've literally been talking about how you take a bad situation to make it worse.
And we throw the subscribe channel.
You take Ezra
this channel goes
and you promote them.
That's the Flash sequel.
So he goes, oh, so you got the Black Knight. Oops. Subscribe to the channel.
I've just been cast as the Flash.
It really is the Black Knight. You just took everything out. Huh? Just take it out. Just take it all out.
Welcome to the big thing.
Show some class, you mother F. Jesus.
Oh my God.
So you I don't even know where I was going.
Where are you gonna go? Nice try. Nice try. Go. So
Hard reboot, bro.
Dark Knight,
Hard
Dark
reboot.
Knight. Say it's like the Dark Knight coin. Oh, I don't think it's survivable to have anything have that high of praise come out.
How did you do one of my favorite Family Guy gigs ever? It's like, so what is your future business plan in the next 5 years? Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Don't say doing your wife. Doing your son.
The problem was my brain leapt to you retaliating because that's usually your thing is I say something dumb and you call me out on it. So I tried to preemptively call you out on it, and then I was just worse.
All right, so that was the comment from White Fool.
Hey, yep. So there it is. That's the only clip that's gonna air. That's it. That's the.
That's it. It's nice knowing you. All right.
It's been a good run.
Oh my God, I needed that.
Stay on target.
I need Ezra Miller's PR team immediately.
It's true. Ezra's like, thanks, Court.
Oh, seems like a good time to announce in Flash 2.
Ezra all of a sudden's like, I'll threaten the KKK, but what the hell?
It's not so bad.
Let's try to get back into it. So but the idea of it though, if you look at what Warner Brothers really has to do, as we said, we don't envy their position, right? Because they have this massive hit, if they think.
Yeah.
That's coming out in June. I mean, they trusted it enough that it's coming out in June. You got a great director like Andy Muschietti doing it. I just think it is but we haven't, and this is what you and I talked about before we went on air, Winston, and it's so hard to say if the choice is right or wrong without seeing the movie, because even though everything in us is saying if it is, it's the wrong choice. Because I think for fandom in general, you can't win this because but I'm saying if we all see it and we go, oh, I really want to see where that goes next. Do we say that? Because you know what I mean? Like Winston, if you're sitting there,
Christian Bale did something and The Dark Knight came out, would they give him Dark Knight Rises?
He did do something.
Did he?
He wouldn't need the whole rant was.
Oh, but yeah, that's not in the Harmony. That was like a verse.
I know.
But that was in between the Dark Knight trilogy?
Yeah, it was right before the third one came out.
It was,
but the movie was already shot. That's the difference. It was coming to an end. So like, what are you going to do? No. But there wasn't then time.
First of all, I'm not comparing the two situations at all.
No.
I'm just saying the scandal around it.
No. I know, but I'm saying the timing was this is coming to an end. He did that. You're not going to throw out the end of the trilogy.
Of course
versus,
not. No. I know. I was just saying that there
there
was scandal.
But I'm saying like the scope.
Not even.
Dad, but the scope of. There's a lot going on. It's just this phone is connected. The Bluetooth connected.
And I have turned off the sound, but the sound said "F you."
It sounded like
that's hilarious.
Dark Knight Rises,
amazing.
That's what I thought it was.
The timing on that was really good.
Good comedic timing. Someone calling.
Yeah, it was right as we were talking about Dark Knight Rises.
Do you think there's anything that you would be able to hear anyone in PR say that would make you feel comfortable with Ezra doing more of the movies?
See, here's the thing. As far as any sort of rebounding and recovery and truly changing, if I remember correctly, Ezra went to seek help. It's been 4 months.
Right.
None of that happens overnight.
Right.
I look back at Robert Downey Jr. and everything that he went through, and
it
the
took him
fact
a long time,
years, because the big thing is it's this no pun intended. The big thing is when you look at like New Year's resolutions, for example, everybody's in the gym that first month.
Yeah, it's whether you're there in March.
Are you there in March? Are you there in September? Are you there in December? Next January, are you adding to it?
Are you there so you don't get a slap on the wrist and keep your millions of dollars?
Yeah. Why are you at the gym?
Right.
And that's my point with this. If we go down the line and we see actual change out of Ezra Miller
in years,
that's a different conversation.
Right. Because I'm with you. More so than ever on that, because like if I still think the choice should be made, we got to reboot it. Thank you, Ezra, for everything. It's a great movie. Peace. And then guess what? In 3 years from now, really has cleaned up their act. I mean, wow. We got a new movie that we want to work on you with. come on in. Let's have some meetings.
Also, it's a multiversal saga, so it could even be the same character in
Right.
3 years. Audiences understand now. If you can have these conversations now, then
bring
reboot the
them back
universe.
later.
I can't imagine a world where they don't have a Wonder Woman. That was also an interesting part of that article. But if you do have a Flash, I don't see a world where you can't also have them come back as
Agreed.
Flash in 5 years.
I also love the character of the Flash, but let's again be honest here. The holy trilogy of DC is Superman, Wonder Woman,
Right.
Batman.
And I can't see the lead female character in a universe not being a spotlight.
Who do you put in her place?
And people love Gal Gadot.
They love Gal
her.
Gadot, and they love the character of Wonder Woman.
What is? Yeah, it's. I would say this. Even though I was pretty bummed when they got rid of Cavill, I stood back and I said, I get it. I get it. When Patty Jenkins was left, I said that kind of stinks. She put a lot of. I didn't love the second one, but she put a lot of heart in that first one. She should have had an opportunity to the third one, but I get it. When they said that Momoa might be playing Lobo instead, I said, it's made $1 billion, but I get it. I don't get this.
I don't get it.
I don't get this. If you're going to do all of that that I just mentioned,
You
and
can't have one
I
piece.
don't understand that.
You are also giving so much ammunition to the
Yes,
trolls
yes.
and the Snyder cut
100%.
people and everybody that already doesn't F with what Safran and Gunn are doing.
Yeah.
If there is any validity to this,
Yeah.
you just handed them a bazooka.
Yeah, you're pooping in the living room and going, hey, I guess I'll have to clean this up later.
Yeah, and it's not good to have. It has to be clean, otherwise it doesn't work. And what they have the opportunity to do, and why I would move Flash to the end, is have that clean slate and start over. That's the only way people are going to rationalize Godot leaving. The only way people are going to rationalize Cavill leaving. Like the article, it's really interesting and all over the place to be like executive said blah blah blah. It's just we'll know this month, right? Like it's so soon.
It's very soon. And here's the other, I think, problem that comes to it. I don't know enough about it. I remember reading something, maybe you guys know, but I had heard that Gunn and Miller were fairly close before all of this. Like they were friendly, at least. So that also plays a problem. If it's like, well, what, you weren't friendly with Cavill, so he's gone, but you were friendly with Momoa, so now he's coming back as Lobo. It's like just take care of your friends, or like, what are you doing here? And I don't know what the case is. I do know that James Gunn, and I think this is very similar to like Adam Sandler. He does take care of his friends, right? He absolutely, which is great. He does it, but this is a tougher situation when you're running the whole show. When you're directing movies and things too. That's one thing. You put your buddies in. You like. I know that he's also. He's done a lot for Friends. He's done a lot for Friends. Whether it's cameos in movies and things, and I think it's very admirable. But when it comes to things like this to me would be a massive mistake again. But I haven't seen the movie. That's the problem. I haven't seen the movie,
and that's we're not going to see the movie till June. But we're going to know this month what the plan is. That's what's tricky is we're going to know in the next 3 weeks what's going on with the universe for the next 3 years. We won't know about this movie till June, so they're in a tricky spot of having to market a film that's coming out in 6 months. Which we've already got a trailer for Spider-Verse. We've already got a trailer for Barbie.
this is coming this.
Those
soon.
are no, but that's what I'm saying. Is Barbie is July.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer's July. Those movies are 7 months away. The way the marketing thing works now, the machine needs to be fed for 8 months. So what I'm saying is you're marketing a film about to come out sooner than those films while dealing with this new universe starting. Yeah. I don't envy anyone in that position.
I wonder. I genuinely wonder, based off of how much they've said how good this movie is. I wonder. I know you're saying that they're trying to hype this up as much as they can. If even that decision of Ezra might stay, if that's like a Zaslav, like pushing, make money at all cost, if this is this good, I don't care what you're saying, he's not going, or they're not going.
If that's the one thing he's demanding.
If that's the one thing, it's like, look, Man of Steel didn't do it. I know there's talks of it, but Man of Steel didn't do it, and you've pitched us to Superman. Get rid of Henry. Gal Gadot did a great job in the first Wonder Woman, but the second one didn't really slap.
Aquaman did $1 billion. Let's keep him, but he wants to be Lobo now.
But he wants to be Lobo, but then also
Yeah,
just
but I
how
don't think
that's
Zaslav's going to have that conversation.
No, he's not. But that's his way of keeping him in house. I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. But
we also don't know if Aquaman 2 is Wonder Woman 2.
But I see where you're going with this. But if Zaslav was going to do that, then he would, I would assume, do the same with Momoa. Because if it's about money,
That's $1 billion.
that's $1 billion that it's made so far. That it's just like, why? Just because what you're basically saying is that, well, yeah, I don't know, James and Peter, I know that you think that we should get rid of them, but it's going to make a lot of money. If I was him, I go, and you should also keep Momoa because that movie made $1 billion. So And we don't know that Momoa is getting axed, by the way, too. We haven't,
It's not official
we
yet.
haven't heard that either.
But
So much questions.
It may have, in the same way that we've seen some of these decisions with HBO Max and all this other stuff, it may have been a situation of this is testing so high, I don't care what happens, Ezra stays.
And it's fresher. I mean, that's under his tenure, which is different.
And it's maybe also due to the fact that Zaslav was pretty instrumental in making sure that Ezra Miller got help and putting that together, that it's like, well, I set this whole deal up to make sure that
it's personal,
that Miller was,
and maybe the Cavill thing became personal because of the
pushback.
Because the Black Adam not doing as well as they wanted, and then Rock wanting to like be in that position of power. Like maybe it was maybe Cavill got screwed by circumstance as well.
That's actually a decent segue.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
well, that's what I was thinking. I was trying to tangent.
Right,
I got you.
All right, so when Coy,
into the Black Adam story.
All right, that's what you want to do. You want to go? Let's
I mean, obviously I got a bias towards one that's going to have to come later.
But let's do this one.
But let's do that while we're here.
So as we mentioned up top, we had been saying it on this show for a little bit that we were when they were looking at someone to take over DC, because they thought that Dwayne Johnson, that he was going to do Black Adam, he was making this big push. I had said, Coy had said, Winston had said that, look, maybe he's making a move to actually run DC. And I can't even tell you the amount of comments. There was like, no, he's not trying to. He just wants to be a producer. He just wants to help out. No, well, there's a different report out there, Jack. And I'll tell you. Here's the report. Black Adam starred Dwayne Johnson reportedly made a play to take charge of DC, and here's where it went wrong. It seems that Dwayne Johnson's idea of the hierarchy of power changing in the DC universe was for him to be in charge, but a new report details how the Black Adam star ultimately ran afoul of Warner Brothers. All right, here comes the tea. As DC Studios bosses James Gunn and Peter Safran gear up to reveal their plan for the new DCEU, Variety really is like the spotlight on the DC story. Variety has shared new details about Black Adam star Dwayne Johnson's failed bid for control over the DCEU. Shortly after the Warner Brothers Discovery merger wrapped up back in April, The Rock approached CEO David Zaslav with a vision for the DC universe revolving around, guess who? Black Adam. Ted Adams franchise would have expanded while we have finally gotten a Man of Steel sequel, with Endgame being a Superman versus Black Adam showdown. Johnson's ex-brother-in-law, Hiram Garcia, and producer Beau Flynn were part of this brain trust looking to spearhead a new DC universe, but the former pro wrestler's actions didn't go down well. Going around former DC Films boss Walter Hamada ruffled a lot of feathers, though that's also how Johnson managed to bring Henry Cavill back as Superman. New Warner Brothers Pictures co-heads Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi approved that despite prior plans in 2018 to find a new actor to play the Man of Tomorrow. Black Adam was later released to negative reviews and $391 million worldwide box office haul of a budget of over $235. This hurt Johnson's already worsening relationship with the studio after he had pushed for producing credit on DC League of Super Pets only to do little to promote it. Believe it or not, another issue was The Rock's insisting that a tequila bar featuring his brand be part of Black Adam's New York premiere despite the movie being PG-13. His demands increased and the returns just weren't there, one insider tells the trade. Johnson said the hierarchy of power in the DC universe would change with Black Adam and seemed to take great delight in taking credit for Cavill's return while fielding questions about possibly taking charge of DC as he promoted the movie. Hollywood isn't WWE, though, and moves that benefited his wrestling career clearly didn't fly in the movie business. Now, his time as Black Adam has reached its end as Gunn and Safran plot a new feature for this shared world that won't include The Rock or Cavill's Man of Tomorrow. I thought that wasn't the case. I thought they had said, well, I mean, again, who knows at this point what's true and what's not. But I remember when they said that The Rock had tweeted out something along the lines that Black Adam 2 wasn't going to happen, but they were still talking to Gunn, and he was another one that with Ezra Miller that could potentially stay on. But again, it's a who knows. But actually, Winston, let me start with you here on this one. So this is something we were talking about on Big Thing yesterday. Dwayne Johnson is one of the more beloved kind of movie stars. He was one of the most popular wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
Most people, when you talk about The Rock, they speak very highly of his work ethic, all this. This is a small scratch on his legacy because I think that what he's done, and right now people go, "This is a major scratch." Right now, because he's in the thick of it, it's a storm.
Might be his biggest one.
It's absolutely his biggest one. There's no doubt about it. But when you see things like this, And what people also don't realize, and what's not fair a lot of the times, when they say, well, he was asking for the tequila bar, he was asking for this, and it might be true. He also has lawyers. He also has agents. He also has,
they may have been doing that.
I've been on that side of it where people are going, you know, in a negotiation, they're going, well, we should ask for this. We should ask for that. And I'm like, I don't know.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
Especially because depending on what your overall aim is, the reason why you hire those agents, those managers, is to do the dirty work so you don't have to.
Right.
And I remember
Still your name.
I remember a similar contract negotiation for something I was up for where my agent was like, we should go for this. My manager's like, no, we're going for this. And I'm like, I'm sitting back here and I'm like, I trust y'all because you do this for a living. But that seems aggressive.
Right.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe you're right about that, if that wasn't Dwayne doing it. The only thing I think that's interesting is while he is as beloved as he also is that alpha where we've seen that kind of behavior from him.
100%. He's also got the kind of pull that if they said, hey, we should ask for this, he's like, no. And you're like, okay, forget it. We won't ask for that then. So that's the difference though, where, and he wants to build up his company and wants to do that. But it's like, that's such a small thing. That the overall thing though is that he made this push for DC and he really put all of his chips in and he lost.
Yeah.
And it was on Black Adam. Because Black Adam makes $1 billion. He's got a different argument to make. We said this a long time ago.
Well, what we were watching while you were reading it, which was wild. So the Black Adam box office is officially over. It hit the same amount or just slightly below, I think, or slightly under 2011's Green Lantern.
Yeah,
it did worse than Green Lantern, and that was 2011 money.
Right.
So that means it did
Crazy.
because tickets are more now, inflation, everything. Like the dollar is less, so that's substantial.
Right.
If it did less than that, that's regarded as the.
Do you think this hurts The Rock's legacy at all?
It is. I think it's like anybody else's legacy. Is it going to erase everything that The Rock has done and all the success? Absolutely not. But when you look at somebody's overall career life and you go, what was the one thing they didn't handle very well? I think this will be the only thing that we think of that The Rock did not handle very well.
I think this is Jordan playing baseball. I think this is like, you know, we still see Jordan as the greatest. I mean, I think him as the greatest basketball player of all time, but I remember him playing baseball. I think that The Rock is an incredible entrepreneur and an incredible businessman, an incredible human. Like, I like The Rock the man, but I think that he was doing really well in so many different ways. There had to be a moment where he fell. It was just he's at such a giant place. When you fall, it's that big. Like, giants fall big. So he was doing Ballers and producing it and playing a character like he did in Ballers. Of course he's going to want to run a business like this. Of course he thinks that he could be the first actor that can become like the guy that does this because everything in his life had led to a lot of yeses because he's worked his butt off from $7 to where he is and the man's ambitious. So why would you not shoot for that? Like, I completely see why he did it. It's just, you're going to fail huge when every shot you take is huge.
Yeah. It's just, but unfortunately the shot, I think the way that he went about taking some of these shots were probably not handled the best.
I think he, like they even described it as WWE mentality. I don't think it's WWE mentality. I think it's every type of business combined isn't the movie business. I think it was part WWE, it's part producing, part all these
things. It's what he knows. It's the way that he's done stuff. Even one of the main things that you give him credit for is, and I always brought it up, and I always remember even when Roka went on, we sent him for Collider 2, I think it was the first Jumanji, and I was like, you know, one of the things to really get into with him is that he works so much and he has this. You can't imagine how much he works, not just because he's healthy, but like he's able to, how does he do it? And I said, the reason why you might want to ask him is because the way that wrestling works, it's like a circus and they're on the road all the time and they're moving. You have to train yourself. You can either go on one path where you can go into a dark spot or you can find a way to maneuver that lifestyle. And he clearly did that. Did he implement that with movies? And he did. And I think that he does take a lot of the stuff that made him successful. And sometimes because there's a lot of backdoor politics in wrestling. There's a lot this whole thing that he did when he went around Hamada's back and everything. There's a lot of stuff. Well, you know what? If I can't get it done with this guy, I'm going to the guy himself. And there are certain politics that are different. I think that's what they're saying as far as he may have gone thinking because he's also his business partner Brian Urwitz is also a head writer. Was the head writer at WWE for a long time. Guy I worked with, awesome guy, and but they both come from that world. He was Vince's like right hand man, Brian, for like
also
years.
Producing and having power in TV and film is different than show running an entire empire. And like we're looking at what James Gunn's going through versus what Kevin Feige goes through. These are different jobs. So maybe if it had gone differently, like we said, $1 billion would be a different conversation. But what worries me is The Rock is very, very good at succeeding. I'm worried that this is such a big dent. Like, I hope he takes it well as a man, like a person.
I'm not worried about that as much.
I'll say I'm worried about the guy.
See, well, because
like Dwayne himself, because he's hit so many
I
things.
feel he's this guy.
He's been like a little sad in his Instagram, and I've never seen him like that.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Because
huge.
he took a loss.
Yeah.
And I think, but he's an athlete, you know.
Yeah.
And it's also he's one of these guys. He's like when you go for the big game, he went for the championship and he lost.
15 years of this character. That's a long time.
I know. He went, but he's gonna go like this. But the question is, does it hurt his next film? That's the question.
So there's two things. I think one, just from listening to a lot of his story and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys watch watch his show Young Rock. I watched like the first like season and a half. It's like a pretty good show.
Yeah.
But talking about how the whole beginning of his life was L's on L's on L's.
Yeah.
It was, breaking his leg in college,
Miami,
and then failing as an NFL player, and eventually getting to this space. It took a lot of L's. So
he didn't win in WWE when he first got there either.
he didn't do that either.
His
And
first few movies, they weren't
him.
bangers.
Rocky Maivia is how he debuted
Right.
because they brought him out as this baby face, and he
Right.
came out and they started singing Rocky Sucks,
Right.
and it destroyed him, and they gave him the Intercontinental Championship and all this stuff, and it
He lost
destroyed
all
him.
that weight for Southland Tales to try to be like seen as a normal actor, not
Right.
a
Yeah,
giant
yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And then Southland Tales did what it did.
Right.
As much as I enjoyed Richard
Right.
Kelly's work, it wasn't for everybody.
So he's dealt with L's before, but you're right. He's been on an unprecedented run of nothing but W since the whole, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, he really turned that corner when the rivalry between him and Stone Cold started. From that point forward, he became Rocky, eventually the people's champ, eventually goes on to start doing
He was
movies.
over already. He was already over with the fans because he had a really good run with the Nation, and but as a villain, right? And they really liked him as a villain. It was the stuff that he said because he started to be able to do what The Rock does, using his personality, using his humor, using that charisma as a bad guy. But if you're a good enough heel and you're a likable heel, then you become a really likable babyface.
Right.
And it was the rivalry that he had with like Mankind and these other things that he had that really started to build him up. He had good matches with Triple H and all these, but then it was the rivalry with Stone Cold that had this kind of overall just massive. Everybody would watch, like casual people watched it, and it sold WrestleMania matches, and they had legendary WrestleMania matches, WrestleMania 15, WrestleMania 17, all these different matches. But then his big one again, where he was already there, but it even catapulted him even higher, is when he fought Hulk Hogan, because that was like two eras clashing, and it was a major match.
But it's the idea of that, because you would even then look at him then coming into movies. He was in blockbusters or like giant family films, but those were also flops. Something like
that Disney deal.
So so like he comes into The Mummy Returns, and that's a major blockbuster. But the one thing people are like on is the fact that like the CGI for him as a Scorpion King was trash. And then the Scorpion King comes out, and that's not good. And then the Tooth Fairy comes out, and that's not good.
Right.
But then eventually hits a stride where all of a sudden you get
Walking Tall.
Yeah, so good.
You know, I'm jumping ahead now just because like not everything's coming to mind, but then all of a sudden he's a part of the Fast franchise.
Fast Five revitalizes the whole
Jumanji.
franchise.
Well, they were calling
They gave him
they
that
were calling him
huge
franchise Viagra for a little bit.
Right.
So
because he would
that's
go
what
into
worries
things,
me, right? Is so if he's franchise Viagra for so long and he's leading all these things, I just worry about the human being that takes so many wins. And sure, he's survived losses, but you're on a run like say Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor had to lose a lot in private, but once he was in public UFC, he had that incredible run.
Sure.
Once he lost to Khabib, that man never was the same. And still
Ronda
isn't the
Rousey.
same. Ronda Rousey's another great example.
Yeah.
Like once he lost to Khabib, even though he beat Cowboy, when he lost again, his Instagram is sad. Like he's got a not like
it's
he's
the fighter
sad. He's
spirit.
got a sadness in it.
And I get it. The only thing that I will say about that stuff that's a little different, I know that is all performing in one way or another. Straight fights have a very different mentality on your ego.
Sure.
Than,
I'm not denying that.
This. And I would, because the other L in this immediate era you might think about for The Rock is what's been going on with the XFL, and that wasn't his fault. That the pandemic ruined all those plans that they had for that, and whether or not it's still coming back, there were talks that it was, but who knows?
But a lot of times when you take an L to this scale, it changes you as a person. So I'm just worried fundamentally.
But every time he has though, and this is where I give him credit, and I think he'll be fine, and which is why I think this will be maybe the biggest tarnish, but it will not tarnish his legacy, is every time that happens, The Rock takes it in stride and he evolves.
Yeah.
And I think this is a situation, you look at the XFL, you look at trying to go with DC. This is an idea now of, instead of him being the performer, of being the head honcho, and it failed twice. I think now we see a situation the next time this comes up that he evolves and it actually works the way he wants.
And that's the hope. I mean, much like Conor McGregor, I just hope dude's good. I'm just worried about the human.
Here's the thing though too. When they love you, they love you. When they don't, they don't. And this is the other thing. If he puts out his next movie and it does well, no one will be talking about this again. However, if it does bad,
People
then
lump
you're
it
on
in.
it. You're on
then
the
they're going to lump it in.
Yeah.
It's just how it works. But all right. So one of the
He's got
things,
something already filmed, or his next decision is
it's
huge.
It's true, but you said he's been a little down.
Yeah.
I think that he needs some athletic greens to pipe himself back up. I think that'll help him out a lot. I think it's absolutely something that has helped me out. It's helped my quality of life in general, and I know that for everybody who's been here taking it, they've loved it, and I know that you guys have been out there taking it. It's really great because our next partner is Athletic Greens, and I take AG1 by Athletic Greens. I take it every day. It's great. You can do it right before coffee. You can do whatever. You just put it in a bottle of water. You shake it up. Hey now, that's a Howard Stern reference. I gave AG1 a try because I wanted the better sleep quality. I wanted a better gut health. I wanted all that stuff, and I got it. And I'm not a vitamins person, like a ton of vitamins. I just can't do it. And I wanted to take a supplement that tasted good. I got it because I take AG1 in the morning. As I said, I put it in the water bottle and I'm good. It makes me feel good. I'm just ready to go. It's hard for me to just do all those supplements, and it comes with different products, and it's like a whole routine. And I'm like, just give me one thing to take and that's it. It's just, why would you take a whole bunch of different things when you just take one scoop of powder and water once a day? AG1 was designed with ease in mind, so you can live healthier and better without having to do a lot. It's great. So it has the all-in-one formula, and it's just it's literally everything that you need that you would take 100 times over into one little scoop, and it's packed with 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food source ingredients. It's awesome. I love it. It's delivered to me every month, and it's been really easy to just make it a daily habit. I have the little packets. I have the scoop. It's awesome. So if you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. But you have to go to athleticgreens.com/bigthing. athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Go and check it out. You guys know we've been with Athletic Greens for a while. And I get the question all of the time of how you can support the show. People are like, is there anything we can do? Like, you guys don't do live shows a lot. I want to do super chats. I want to do that. It's like, help yourself out. Get yourself some Athletic Greens. It not only will help you out, it helps out the show tremendously. It supports the show, and it'll support your life. All right, let's get to Winston. We got some topics here, man. So we just did
pick one.
Yeah, you pick one. We got a couple of them out there. Which one do you want to go at?
Oh man, how about it's
you want to stay there?
I kind of want to stay there.
Go ahead.
Because I love me some Dave Bautista.
Go ahead.
So apparently Dave Bautista was recently being interviewed. I didn't read the whole story quite yet, but there was some talks that he's talking about what he wants to do with his career, because obviously Drax is coming to an end. He was just in Glass Onion.
Yep.
He did Army of the Dead, a little while ago. But there are talks in a recent interview. He was saying that he wants to be a respected actor instead of the next Rock, which, holy God, that if you want to talk about a shot across the bow, that
Hit the man while he's down.
That is something else, man. I look, before we even get into the story, I mean, the one thing I will say, The Rock is damn sure a performer, but I've never looked at any of the performances The Rock did and go, man, that's going to win an Oscar one day. You know what I'm saying? So I am very curious about this story and specifically what got said.
All right, well, let's get into the story itself. Dave Bautista, we talked about this little bit on Big Thing yesterday. The part that we covered was that he pretty much confirmed that no more Drax, and I think that everybody said no more Drax, no more Guardians. I mean, we already heard from Zoe Saldana, who said it's over. And I think once Gunn left, they're very loyal to him, and Bautista's very loyal to Gunn. So, but this is the other thing. So, Guardians of the Galaxy star Dave Bautista found a great deal of success in the WWE, but despite becoming one of the company's biggest stars, the time eventually came for time for him to leave. Why? Well, despite being one of the company's top superstars, the man formerly known as Bautista didn't believe he was being treated fairly. John Cena and I were both headlining shows. Bautista recalled in an interview with GQ. I was the face of SmackDown. He was the face of Raw. But he was being used in WWE films and television commercials and magazines, and I was just headlining the shows. In fact, there was one point where he was off making a film, and I was headlining both sets of shows and the pay-per-views. It was just a feeling of we're not getting equal opportunities here. So off to Hollywood he went after choosing to leave WWE in 2010 following a series of failed negotiations. Admittedly, that acting wasn't the plan early on in his career. Breaking into the mainstream became his goal, but it didn't come easy. After Bautista burned through the money he'd made in WWE, his house was foreclosed on, he sold his cars and bikes, and he said he lost everything. I had to start all over, he said, before realizing that direct-to-DVD movies beckoned. At first, anyway, before I left WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin pulled me aside and said, "You're going to get offers for horrible scripts. The money will be tempting. Don't get caught into that trap." After starring in The Man with the Iron Fist and Riddick, Bautista's big break came when he was cast as Drax in Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy. I had to pull over because I was crying so hard. He says of learning he'd landed the role after months of auditions and rumors bigger stars had beaten him to it. I turned right back around and walked into my house, shaking to tell my wife I had gotten the role, and we were both standing there freaking out. While superstardom soon followed, Bautista is now looking to move on from playing the Marvel hero because he wants to be remembered as more than just a comic book character. With that in mind, don't expect the Army of the Dead and Knock at the Cabin star to embark on a career that will see him tackle the same string of action roles as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I never wanted to be the next Rock, he states. I just want to be a good effing actor, a respected actor. I know what he's trying to say here.
I know.
Clearly, Bautista doesn't believe Johnson is either one of those things. Come on, comic book movie. Clearly, Bautista doesn't believe Johnson is either one of those things, though this isn't the first time he takes some shots at his fellow pro wrestler. I don't know. There's a lot there. I think that what he's saying is he just never, and he probably could have chosen his words better. I think that he's basically just saying, I want to actually be a dramatic actor. I want to go into those types of roles, and The Rock's doing what he's doing, and he should have said as much. He should have said, like, The Rock's doing his thing, and he's gone down that action road. That's not the path I want to go.
And that now hearing it in context, which is why reading the story is just more important. It's very clear he's like he said, I don't want to be like the comic book actor or the action actor. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want to do action. Yeah. But I'm sure what he's getting at is he's like, if I'm gonna do all that, I'm trying to be like Liam Neeson type.
And whenever you see an interview, or if you've interviewed, have you talked to Bautista before?
No.
I know I didn't know if you worked with the same.
No, he was after my time. Yeah.
He's like so fascinating because he's so focused and he really wants to, like, he's one of the more engaging conversations because he's so invested in the world.
Yes.
And movie stars often, like, they're doing sound bites and they're getting out there. He wants to dive in and he wants to focus. He's got the energy, like Matt Smith has that thing, like movie star or actor, and usually you can put someone in a category.
Yeah.
I agree that he's an actor because he's so invested in the craft. He's also so invested in humanity, and there is a different flavor of work. So I don't see this as much of a shot to The Rock as they want it to be, because that's a better headline, as it is like The Rock is a movie star, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he wants to be an actor.
I will say, though, this, and this is another conversation, we can throw it here. Out of the actors that have, there's a bunch of wrestlers who have done it. From Hulk Hogan to Roddy Piper to so many different people. There's only 3 that, unless I'm forgetting somebody, there's only 3 that have made it into mainstream and that are actually movie stars,
and they're
TV
all active
stars.
right now.
Right?
John Cena, Bautista, and The Rock. Those are the 3. There are a lot of other actors that have done it. Andre the Giant was in Princess Bride, and he was great, and he was in a couple other movies too.
Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan,
Kevin Nash, Triple H. They've all been in stuff, right? Yeah. But those are the ones that are really kind of carried. Sasha Banks or Mercedes was great in the Mandalorian, but she's still got such.
Wasn't a wrestler Sabretooth and in Blade Trinity?
Wrestler, he passed away. Yeah.
Oh, he passed away.
The wrestler in I think it was the wrestler, wasn't it?
Tyler Mane or something. I think
that was in the first X-Men.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he passed away.
Okay,
I'm
but he
pretty
was
sure.
a wrestler, wasn't
maybe wrong. Yes, but not like a major one, but I should say not like as big as these guys. So the question posed is this: out of the 3, where would you rank him as far as acting ability? Not as far as star power. There's no the Rock's the biggest.
Star power. The Rock is easily
there's no chance.
If you're putting just straight acting ability,
it's a tough question.
It is a tough question, and I think what is going to put a baby bit of bias, because I think Cena finally had his coming out party last year. I think it probably goes Cena, Bautista, Rock.
I think I'm actually going to go Bautista because of Blade Runner. His 5 minutes in Blade Runner is so captivating, and it's so different. Like I think even with Cena's Peacemaker, which is incredible, and I finally got to see the range. I feel like I've seen more years of range with Bautista, which gives me a little bit more like a perspective. But Cena and Peacemaker put him on par with Bautista this year.
I've got the unpopular opinion where I think it's The Rock because I've seen Faster, I've seen Walking Tall, I've seen these other things. I think that he chooses. I think you guys are absolutely right that he chooses to do these more kind of bigger moneymaker things, but I think that he's got that kind of work ethic there where if he wanted to, he can really dive in. But
I don't disagree with that.
But Bautista right now, I think
We've seen more of it from Bautista.
I think he's got the most potential. I still think that there's something like people love what he did in Knives Out and Glass Onion. I thought he was good in it for sure. There was sometimes that it was okay. Cena won me over with Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad, but there's been time in Trainwreck he was good, but there's been time like Bumblebee I thought he was terrible.
Also, like his entire like straight to DVD career is rough.
That's what I mean. So like but he was phenomenal in Peacemaker. I mean, like not just the comedic stuff, dramatic and other things too. But I just for some reason I just think that if the three of them were all in an acting class together and you ask them to do a bunch of stuff, where are you gonna go by the end of it? You're gonna say, I don't know, it looked like Dwayne Johnson was the one who was really kind of dove into it and fired up. There's a reason why he was the peak out of the three of those guys in wrestling. He was the peak guy
I see Bautista as doing really well with different directors like Denis and Blade Runner and Ryan Johnson.
I agree with this.
Whereas maybe it's only James Gunn, Cena. Like because I've seen Cena do really well with James Gunn.
I think he's the third tier. I think he's the third tier now.
Do you know what I mean?
No, you guys are right, and I would make an adjustment. I would say Bautista. It's gonna. I'm literally that you guys have convinced me, but I'm gonna go Bautista, Rock, Cena.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm so curious for you guys out there if you're
Pain
watching.
And Gain really showed the Rock's range and like Walking Tall. Pain and Gain, he's so good in Pain and Gain.
There's a lot. There's a lot. Listen, so if you guys out there, we had this conversation briefly on Big Thing yesterday, and we had it again here today. So you guys, put it out there. Rank those three as far as acting ability, not star power. I think we all know the answer. All right, before we move on to another topic, I want to tell you how about this topic. Boom. That's right. Our friends over at Boom, they are back. We are very excited for this segment to be sponsored by Boom. They got a new comic out, guys.
Yeah.
Mosley. That's right. That's right. We're going to talk about this right now, and it's out this week from Boom Studios. It's the start of a brand new series. It's from author Rob Guillory, the iconic artist on Chew, and artist Sam Lotfi of Harley Quinn. It's the epic sci-fi. I love Boom sci-fi stuff, man. They really dive into the sci-fi stuff. I love it. And it's a mini-series, and it follows Marvin Mosley, who's a janitor who is fed up with the state of the world and how technology and artificial intelligence now control basically every aspect of human life. And this is happening more and more so. Well, maybe it's time now for Mosley to finally push back on those too big-to-fail tech gods in the form of an encounter as a higher power and a holy hammer that's just begging to be used. Now, what's really cool about this series is it blends satire, it has action, it's got a lot of crazy visuals, and it's going to absolutely be one of the year's most unique sci-fi stories. So let's start with you, Winston. You got a chance. You were raving about him, and you texted Roy and us. We didn't get a chance to read it yet, and you're like, nobody's writing me back.
No, because essentially what I was saying is this story feels like if Steel, not Steel as in Shaq. Yeah. I mean, Steel is just the character Steel. Irons. If you took Steel and fused them with Ghost Rider and then took them and put them in the Matrix, this story is absolutely incredible. A story like it said about technology and AI going too far and everything like that, and a dude that's had enough. And it is, again, we just read the first book. Mind blown. I was automatically hooked, and I was like, okay, smash them, dog, let's go.
You know what's crazy about this whole thing too is that fact that we've gotten lucky, because a lot of times, and you can believe us or not, it's fine with me, but a lot of times if you're like, okay, well, a comic book company wants to come in and sponsor a segment, you're like, okay, let's see how it goes. There's going to be some hits, there's going to be some misses for sure. We have gotten lucky where every single thing so far has been like, because even stuff like, for me, Power Rangers was after my time. But that stuff with the Power Rangers and TMNT, and then they go ahead and spin it on your head and give you something like this, and just a lot of the different, and then it can go into horror and they go into thriller. We've talked about what they've done that has been so smart is this changing and the way that they really play in the genre. They almost play like a movie studio.
Yeah.
They really do. But
There's
Corey,
a reason they're so tied into the zeitgeist of pop culture beyond comic books, because they know not only how to hire the best comic writers and artists, which they consistently do, but they know the stories that are cinematic and that'll translate to people that don't read every single comic book. Like the reason Boom, I hosted, full disclosure, I hosted their Hall H panel at Comic-Con. There's a reason not only were they the first ever comic book on that stage because they're so plugged into pop culture, but there's also a reason that they knew of me because I'd been yelling about them long before any of this. So it is a company that I was saying they're the most consistent, like, of any of the publishers now. And then they make a book like this, which is the book Chew was one of the best indie books of, I'd say, the early 2000s. And it is so captivating and weird. And then the Harley Quinn title was like a thing that rejuvenated the character. So for them to be like, oh, let's put those two people together, tell your own original stories. We're going to give you the freedom to do that. That's why they're thriving. They're trusting in their creators while also knowing the pulse of what is popular. Like, you texted within half an hour of that email, and like I read it this morning and was like, I know it makes sense. So like the immediacy of the hype is because of the consistency and the style.
I think the other thing that really got me is at the very end of the book, and I know authors on comic books do this a decent amount of time, but he wrote like a little insert at the end of like thanking the audience for picking up the book, being really sincere of like, this is how we keep the lights on. And, I woke up and I thought to myself, like, these gadgets and the rate that they're going is getting out of control. And so this is just a very personal story that I wanted to tell. Like I built this world out with the team. And I was like, I respect it, dude. I genuinely do. You took the time to thank the fans like that, which is amazing. But then, as you will see when you read it, and you should all read it, this is the reason why you love Way of the Water so much. This is 1,000% a story about a family man and how the world affecting you is going to change you based on how it's affecting your kids. Right. This whole thing for him is he went into it. He went into a program, the main character Mosley, because he wanted to do something for his daughter. And it did not go the way he wanted, and it shaped his life vision. And it is so interesting to see that I was instantly gripped. I'm not a dad, but like I was just like, this is that family story that gets to the core of stuff that makes you hooked, and you want to see where it goes. So once again, everybody. So Corey, I know also before we move on from the same, is there anything in general that you've got for us this week?
Yeah, I actually was just checking that because I want to make sure I got my list, see my with letter ratings of all these comics. I wanted to make sure the people knew that Riddler Year 1 #2 was out this week. Riddler Year 1 is actually Paul Dano writing his origin as an actor. So he came up with an entire origin for his Riddler from the series that he developed for the Batman. Like, so he is writing a comic book, and it's beautifully illustrated. It's got a great pace and tone. It's a neo-noir, and it's literally only on issue 2. I think it's going to be 4 issues, maybe 5. Very accessible and a very dark telling of his Riddler's origin. Highly recommend it.
All right. So once again, we thank Boom Studios for sponsoring this one, and make sure you check out Mosley. All right, we'll close out.
I got to do my one. You got to do your one. Because I got wrapped into the other one by default. I didn't pick mine. This
will be the last one of the day. We're going to leave some on the table. What do you got?
I got Hugh Jackman talking Deadpool 3. It was so hard not to lead with this, but we got DC heavy. I am so excited to not only see Deadpool 3, and I tweeted this morning because I was so excited. We're about to see a year of press where Hugh Jackman's charm is going to meet with Ryan Reynolds' sardonic wit while mixed with the power of the marketing prowess that is Maximum Effort. We're about to see some of the best marketing for movies of all time. We might have just gotten the title for the film, maybe, by way of a video discussing an Oscar campaign for a musical. Like, the genius of the way this is all going to unfold. There's going to be so much layers and internet goodness, but I'll let you take it away. I'm so excited.
No, that's cool. So let's see. This is again, comic book movie. In a video poking fun at Ryan Reynolds' first performance in Apple TV's Spirited, Hugh Jackman appears
Great movie, by the way.
We started it, didn't finish. Hugh Jackman appears to reveal Deadpool 3's title, leading to a possible war of words with his co-star. Check it out. So ever since that Deadpool test footage leaked online during 2014 San Diego Comic-Con, it's been clear that Ryan Reynolds is really great at marketing. That's become evident from the way he's promoted the many brands he's part of, though it extends to his Hollywood work as well. The news that Hugh Jackman will return in Deadpool 3, broken in the most unique way possible. Now, as he and Reynolds gear up to start shooting the Marvel Studios threequel, Jackman has dropped a video pleading with Academy voters not to nominate his co-star for Best Original Song at the Oscars. That's for the Oscars work in Apple TV Spirited, of course. But what's the Wolverine's actor's issue here? Jackman says, it would make the next year of my life insufferable, he explains in the video below. I mean, I have to spend a year with him shooting Wolverine and Deadpool. Yes, it appears Jackman just dropped Deadpool 3's official title. Reynolds wastes no time in responding, questioning the name, but seemingly confirming this was no mere mistake on Jackman's part. Given how Deadpool 2 was referred to as the untitled Deadpool sequel, we can definitely see this movie getting two conflicting titles, Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine, once the marketing campaign ramps up. For now, this is a name for the movie that is hard to find fault with. Wolverine getting top billed over the Merc with the mouth kind of makes sense and is sure to be something Wade Wilson takes issue with while breaking the fourth wall. Deadpool 3 or Wolverine and Deadpool is currently set to be released in theaters on November 8th. Here's the actual audio from Jackman.
Hey, everybody. It's 2023, and I really wanted to send out a positive message at the beginning of the year, but recent events have made that impossible. Don't get me wrong. I loved Spirited. It's a great movie. We had a blast. The entire family watched it. I love Will. I love Octavia. Obviously, I did The Greatest Showman with Benj and Justin. They're incredible, and I loved their music. And Good Afternoon, by the way, the song Good Afternoon, I laughed the entire way through. It is absolutely brilliant. However, I just heard the Academy have shortlisted Good Afternoon in the Best Song category. Now, Ryan Reynolds getting a nomination in the Best Song category would make the next year of my life insufferable. It would. I mean, I have to spend a year with him shooting Wolverine and Deadpool, and trust me, it would be impossible. It would be a problem.
So I want to stop it there because I wanted to hear the way that he actually said it.
Yeah.
And and then the way Reynolds responds to also Wolverine and Deadpool, bub. So I think this is I think it's a confirmation that this is what the titles are, whether or not he meant to do it or not.
Lot of breakdown here. Okay,
go ahead,
first of all, it's marketing. This is I think intentional because Ryan Reynolds, whether it's the way he's marketed Mint Mobile, the way he's marketed aviation, he literally has a production company, a marketing company that I would think 2 years in a row has won Best Marketing called Maximum Effort. And so this I don't think is a mistake. I think Hugh Jackman playing the straight man and him being is going to be the flavor of the movie and calling it Wolverine and Deadpool. Even they mentioned in the article that gives you a lot to play with in marketing. You can have it scratched out. You can have Deadpool and Wolverine. You can play out this title. And we've heard it's a buddy cop thing. All of this sounds exactly like what it's going to be, and this is the right way to do it. I also just want to give credit to Marvel usually runs everything their way, and they usually put out like certain amount of content certain times. There's usually certain things running. I think a huge reason that we didn't hear about Deadpool for a very long time was because this was Ryan making sure it was his control. Right. He was doing it his way. D23 happened 2 weeks later. We got the Deadpool 3 announcement. That is not a coincidence. Right. They did not do it at D23 because Ryan wanted to do it his way with that amazing video. I can almost guarantee you it's in his contract. He gets marketing rights. He gets control over the title. He gets all these things. I could see this as being him controlling this entire little pocket of that world. And that's the first time because the MCU, and it's good timing because the MCU right now needs a little boost, a little flavor.
I think
it might be time to relinquish control a little bit.
I think a lot of that might be true, but I also think that if you're Disney and you buy Deadpool, you also got to be careful with how much power you give the star.
I think that's why it took so long, though.
But I don't disagree with you that there's not some things inside of the contract. There's certain things. Now, complete control, I don't think so.
Well, not complete, but I would say marketing. They might have said you can.
We're going to trust you in the marketing side because you've marketed the film well. Yeah. The thing is that the marketing alone has also been part of. I mean, obviously the success, but it's also almost like a character inside of the movie at this point. Mm-hmm. The way that he markets it, the way that Deadpool comes out and markets
Valentine's Day ads for the first one.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So if you're Marvel, why wouldn't you want that still? Right. When it sold a lot of tickets without you? Yeah, that was the movie that was doing well. You didn't need the MCU machine. It was doing it on its own.
Almost $1 billion each, 1 and 2.
So why fix what was not broke?
Yeah, I agree.
And at that point, so Winston, what do you think?
No, I mean that was pretty much what I was going to say. Is just along those lines. Is yes, Feige has to look at it and go, since this is now a part of this camp, there are certain things that have to hit, but otherwise go.
Right.
Because everything else that you bought had problems at one point or another. There were definitely high points for Hugh Jackman and his Wolverine. I think Logan, X2 United.
Sure.
But then there were really bad lows. There was Apocalypse. There was Origins Wolverine.
And he was in that too.
And he was in both of those.
Deadpool.
Deadpool was in
Yeah,
which one?
Deadpool was
He was
in
in
Origins.
Right, but I don't count that.
No,
Yeah.
of course. Well, that was the whole reason that this
Yeah.
was created because of
Right.
that movie.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And the fact that there's even the assassination of the Deadpool.
And
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's a coincidence. I think that's coming in Deadpool 3. I think they're going to be killing other Deadpool,
I wouldn't
other
be surprised.
things. Yeah, there's going to be
I
multiversal
wouldn't be
stuff.
surprised. But I think that's the whole thing. Feige, where you have to give him full credit. He knows when something ain't broke, don't fix it. And
Yeah.
when you have a good thing, let it multiply. And I think that was it. It was a, okay, yes, Ryan, you know what you're doing. You know the marketing. You know how to handle that. Take it. Make sure it fits this. Otherwise, play. Because that's exactly what you need. If Deadpool already in Marvel, like just in the books, everybody's in the sandbox and he's standing outside and he jumps in and he jumps out and he jumps in and he jumps out. It's kind of the same thing.
Right.
Let Ryan cook like that and make sure it fits enough, but then you go.
You've got two movies that have made a lot of money, and as I said, you didn't need the MCU machine, but now you have the MCU machine, and there's got to be something in how it all plays into the phase.
He's also been talking to Miss Minutes on Twitter. Ryan Reynolds and Miss Minutes have been talking, which is going to be interesting because that does kind of lean into the time travel stuff that I think is going to come into play.
Yeah.
I also think they're going to be using, much like they did in Deadpool 2, like certain X-Men and certain things. And I don't think this is going to be like the introduction to what the MCU's X-Men are, but I do think there's going to be a lot of cleaning up continuity because it's the perfect device to clean up continuity is having Wolverine and Deadpool.
So curious how this one's going to turn out. I think it's going to do very well, obviously, but I think as far as title goes, we're both Wolverine, and what is it going to land on? I think Wolverine and Deadpool for sure.
I think it'd be so funny if Deadpool 3 is called Wolverine and Deadpool because it would drive Deadpool crazy, and Wolverine is the bigger star, so it does track for.
So there's two things that actually just popped into my mind about this. I think the name of the movie is Wolverine and Deadpool. I think by the end of it, though, similar to what happened with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where it became Captain America and the Winter Soldier, I would not be surprised if by the end of the movie it becomes Deadpool and Wolverine. And the reason why is I would also not be surprised if this is a cleaning up of what everything is. If we get an introduction to who our next Wolverine is by the end of this movie, because you're going to end up multiverse, whatever it is, that Hugh literally hands it off. If you
think the next Wolverine's going to be cast by then?
It could
By
already be,
2024,
already be done.
They're going to shoot it. They're going to start shooting this year.
Well, right.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking they're pretty far into the X-Men casting.
I think that they have got to have that and Fantastic Four and everything kind of pretty set at this
Close
point.
to it. Yeah, but
because you have to move. So that's the thing. You don't necessarily have to have the
Yeah.
whole X-Men cast, but to have your Wolverine locked down and let that be the introduction, and even the gimmick of Wolverine to Deadpool becoming Deadpool to Wolverine, I think
it's a maybe, but it's one of those things that as we're reading through all these reports and you look at like Variety, right? There's just people like Jeff Snyder who don't sleep and look for this stuff like because you think Reed Richards has already been cast.
Yeah.
You think like you don't think that these reporters, someone like a Snyder or would crack this code already? They think they were going to be able to keep it that quiet?
Biggest pop star in the world was secretly in Eternals until some asshole leaked it at the premiere. I think the biggest movie star, like the biggest pop star, was able to be secretly in a Marvel film. That's two giant fandoms.
And that was a small.
It's a
scene.
small role, but
it was a post-credit scene.
Sure, but that's still I'm saying the scope of both those things.
Yeah. And it was leaked. It was leaked after the movie came
Right.
out. Right. I mean, yeah. It's if they can keep it quiet. I mean, I prefer when people keep it quiet because I want to be surprised in the theater. You know,
I mean, Henry Cavill they shot that in September. The movie came out in October, but we heard rumblings we didn't approve.
Well, but The Rock was promoting
The
The Rock was promoting it.
But
with,
we didn't
with
hear
that
before
post-credit
then.
scene. Yeah. Right.
The other thing I would say too is if you notice this. You've always had leaks and stuff like that. It hasn't been this bad until recently. There were things about Infinity War and Endgame that were hidden very well from us, and that wasn't that long ago. That's just a couple of years. So if there is something they really want to keep close to the chest, Marvel and Feige have done a good job of doing it if they really, really want to. But I think a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, the reason why it's also the reason why it's also gotten bigger is because Marvel's gotten bigger.
I'd also argue X-Men and Fantastic Four are the biggest casting announcement since Spider-Man.
Agreed.
There's nothing bigger.
That's my
But that's
point.
why they'd be
That's the
extra
difference
vigilant.
The difference between, and I agree, the Harry Styles point is valid because it's like he's a massive star, but the character itself wasn't a massive thing. But like, who's Doctor Doom? Who's like these? Like those are things, especially, if it turned out to be a very big actor.
I think we'll
got a way
find
to go.
out. I mean, at Comic-Con, I think this year we're going to find out DC slate. I think we're going to find out.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if Marvel's even going to need to lean into that with things like this already announced.
Is Marvel? You know, this might be a conversation for another show because I think we're probably going to get into it for a while. But DC versus Marvel at Comic-Con 2023, who wins?
God, I want that.
I know.
No matter, it's a win for everybody, though.
I thought you meant like a crossover. You just meant you're curious about which of the two studios wins.
There's always for the presentation. It's DC hasn't been able to hang with Marvel on the presentation for quite a long time. I think they had one year with like Batman v Superman or something that did pretty well, but for the most part, they haven't really been able. It's usually the presentation from Marvel just had more because clearly there's been no plan and nothing to kind of hold together. This year with everything. And with Gunn being the big showman that he is, do they have a chance to really be the ones who shine?
So what you're saying is, will the Clippers finally be able to take on the Lakers?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that ignore the phrasing of phases as into Marvel, but phases as in bigger.
Yeah.
We're entering phase 2 of DC and we're entering phase 2 of Marvel with Fantastic Four and X-Men. So
Sure.
both of them are about to level up in a real way at the same time. This is the only time they could both have as big of presentations.
You think they're going to? This is a lot. There's a lot to talk about. Yeah,
Next week on.
But either way, guys, thank you for joining us today on Big Thing Capes and Cowls. We had a lot to talk about. We left some on the table, but I think we got to the big stuff for sure. If there's any of the topics that you want to have your voice heard, please do it. And one of the reasons that, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the reason that this show has been doing so well is also there's a lot of activity from you guys. The way the YouTube algorithm works is that when you guys put the likes in there, when you put the comments in there, more people see it. So, and I try to engage with as many comments as I can to have the conversation, and we want you guys to be able to interact. So if you've never commented before, please comment. We always try the goal right now is to try to strive for 1,000 likes and 1,000 comments per episode. You don't always hit it, but we always try, because if you do that, you notice that the more episodes just keep going up and we keep getting better views and we keep getting better interaction, and that's what we're hoping for. So if you like the show, that's how you can support us. So once again, thank you. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, another way to help the show. Patreon.com/The Big Thing Show. Head on over there. Got a lot of different things working on. And if you like Capes and Cowls, you want to get yourself a shirt, go ahead and do that. We've got Capes and Cowls. I have my Show Some Class on hoodie on that I love so very much. There's a few other shirts that are up there. And I'm going to put the You Don't Know-ish shirt up as well. So for myself and Winston and Coy, it is Big Thing Capes and Cowls. Thank you for everybody. We'll appreciate you. Great.